I
Let's
think
start it. We're getting late.
Okay. I think we might, this meeting is being, okay. So it's on YouTube now.
Thank you, thank you, thank
I
you.
think we're getting late.
Okay. I think we might, this meeting is being, okay. So it's on YouTube now.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Getting late.
Okay. I think we might, this meeting is being on YouTube now.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Vandana Kumar, and I'm the publisher of India Currents magazine. And it's such a pleasure to have you celebrate with us today with your poetry, an evening titled Navarasa. And I'm looking forward to what each of you have to say. At India Currents, we've had a long history of supporting the various kinds of arts. And the spoken word is a new one for us. And I especially want to thank Jyoti Bachani over here for helping us put this whole thing together. I know it takes a village, and I know Pragalpa has also been a part of setting all of these up, and the rest of you folks who have generously agreed to share your poetry with the community at large. So I welcome you. And thank you so much. Over to you, Jyoti.
I'll take
Kalpa?
over.
Okay.
I will take over. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for welcoming us. And thank you, Vandana and India Currents, for creating this platform, a sense of belonging for diverse individual experiences, a space for the silent revolution that poetry is. Thank you to our beloved audience that chose to join us today. Your time is precious, and we hope to make our offerings precious for you. Long back, I wrote a short poem. It goes like this. All of us, what we look like, have a story of our life. Sometimes really brave ones, and then those that we hide. Navaras are 9 bhav, emotions, ways of being, out of which flow the stories of our life. Love, humor, wonder, courage, anger, sadness, fear, disgust. I am Pragalpa Doshi, poet, writer, yoga therapist, mother, etc., etc. And I am delighted to be here to introduce to you 5 poets and an array of poetry in 4 languages. Our first hour of is a formatted main event where after each poet reading, there will be a 3-minute pause for you to offer your appreciation or quick question. Listeners play an important role of encouragement for the poet. Use the chat to share the effect a poet has on you with the rasa they share, what flows through them and into you, and what happens. There's always something happens when we listen to poetry attentively. And then if there's any comments or questions that would invite discussions, we would have time at the end of the hour. That discussion sometimes flows into your poetry or some conversation. It's always amazing to see what evolves out of it. And we hope you enjoy it as much as we do. So now we begin this experience of poetry with a favorite couplet of mine. Please begin to practice your va or oh or something that comes out of you when you hear some words out of the poets in the chat. Variety of responses, we thrive on them. So here's my couplet before I introduce our first poem. Truth is a beautiful love language. Love is a beautiful truth. Truth is a beautiful love language. Love is a beautiful truth. Neither is what we think it is without the other. Quick note, audience, please keep your mics muted. So, because our poets will now take the stage now, our virtual stage. Please welcome our first poet, Vishal Vatnani. He is a data analytics professional and poet. He primarily writes in English and covers various themes such as love, dystopia, and self-reflection in his poetry. We always love to listen to Vishal. Please welcome Vishal.
Thank you, Pragalpa. So here's the first poem. It's called What is Hate? So in my agreement or my disagreement, love always shines through, limited by the faculty of speech. They can't see the arrangement, blinded by ideas and derangement. Several taps on my Twitter feed, agnostic of the size of my reach. Maybe that's how compulsive hate becomes too. Or maybe hate is to do what compulsive thoughts ask you to. But they don't understand. A little bird learning to fly never learns to fly on one wing. Isn't an epistemologically justified drink. What do they invite more of? A sharp spear of boiling anger? Or an indulgence of sugary pleasure, 125% above the recommended daily measure? Those are the two worlds we most frequently visit, and we say, stop the hate in a world we don't live in. Thank you.
Beautiful.
The second poem is called Remedy. You get hurt, you find a remedy. You get praised, you preserve it on a shelf. But you never appreciate the capacity of feeling in itself. The waves of the tidal current, the sprinklers of an early thought, gooseberries as red in Hawaii, leave you helpless in temptations. You see her beauty and you get high and lose your self-respect in exchange. But you have never seen your own face except in mirrors and on birthday cakes. What is this dream to do? Chaos is organized when played backwards. You argue the Stoics were right as you change your mind a third time today. Nervousness was honesty, so you said, as the brave heart mocked you. Patriotic acts of picking up flags from the mud make you happy despite your upset wife. What a troublemaker you are. Come, enough laughs and giggles. Don't you depart with a life full of biases. Who could be your enemy in a dream?
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
This one is called Pea in a Pod. So the world was you and the mountains were your body. You were the peas in a pea pod, placed on a chair in a photo studio. The model who held you was beautiful, and you were the desire in her eyes. You were the weather's ode to rain. Sunshine felt like a twitch on your leg muscle. Your hair was the flowers on a green pasture, cows the tinnitus in your ears. The traffic was bad blood circulation. The sunset was a rash on your mental foramen. The newspapers were your shameful memories, and the billboards were your visible feelings. How did you come upon this world? Did you stumble upon yourself too many times today? The large bell inside the Big Ben was the whim of a lover swinging across. You were the kindness of a driver, slowing down for a kid crossing the street. You were also the rage of a driver who wanted to shoot the Camaro that cut him off. You were the pea in a pod.
Oh,
This one is called No Hypocrisy. We talk of countries, but they are mere abstractions. Our textbooks taught us to love it, but we saw capital gains always win. And so we traveled far. We traveled to the coveted West. Years of build-up in a storyline, and today we are safer than our home. In a country of wisdom, the number of COVID cases is abysmal. It's just some daily 6-digit number. You're also bored of buying NFTs. You see the news on TV, and death is just a character on stage. You get the news on the phone, and you know you're not in a show. Pearls and diamonds, precious white, liquid oxygen compressed in aluminum, all hoarded in the same warehouse, and they request you not to panic. The figurehead appears on your TV. You recognize him as a friend. Your friends will ostracize you if you don't. Life favors conformists in the end. Good for them. I am jealous of their will. The positivity radiates through my cell phone. And as you rush to donate online, the scammers rub their hands on their bones. Thank you. That's all I have for today.
oh, amazing. Feel free to unmute if anybody has verbal responses oozing out of them.
Really beautiful, Vishal. Some of the phrases, some of the misras are very good.
Thank you, Sandeepji.
I think somebody already said this, but life favors conformists in the end. That's I don't know, is that cynical or is that that sounds depressing to me.
It sort of is on a large scale, with a few exceptions. It doesn't.
He followed that up with, I am envious, and I am glad he conforms to our circle and our group, and I am blessed that you offer these. I haven't heard any of these in the previous circles, so thank you so much. Did you specially write the first one for the event?
Yes, I did.
Thank you, Vishal, for that. I did notice when you were saying it, I said, oh, this is a new one because this speaks so much to what this project is all about. So thank you, really. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I like to, I would just, sorry,
go ahead,
I would
Navneet.
just like to second that and say that the line that came through in one of your pieces, who could be your enemy in a dream? I think that's a takeaway line for me to go back with this theme that we are sharing in, and always to remember that. So thank you so much, Vishal. It was a treat to listen to you.
Thanks for listening.
I think in the same poem, I think you mentioned you've only ever seen yourself in a mirror and a birthday cake. That line really stood out to me too. Thanks for
Same
sharing.
here. I'd say for me too.
Thanks for liking.
Do you all of you had your faces on a birthday cake?
Nope.
I did hear that line. It's like, am I the only one who's missing out on that?
All right.
But
Can I use my powers of my role to move on to the next poet? As much as we're loving this delicious indulgence, Vishal's poetry always leaves a flavor.
I'm going to leave a request with Vandana to send us a cake to celebrate with the Navarasa poster.
Oh.
Thank you, Vishal.
Yeah, and Vandana would come with that, like Snigdha and Vandana would join with the cake. It is my special honor to introduce and invite the next poet. It's because of whom we are all here. Jyoti Bachani, founder of the Poetry of Diaspora in Silicon Valley, incubator for poetry lovers in the community. She translates Hindi poems. She is a poetry lover. She has edited the poetry issue of the Journal of Organizational Aesthetics and 2 Poetry of Diaspora anthologies. She believes that magic happens when we give our breath and ears to poems. Please see the full bios of the poets in the chat because I'm leaving a lot more time for the poetry. I could say so much more about each one of them. So, Jyoti Bachchan.
Thank you. I'm a poetry lover, and the poems I'm going to read to you are originally written in Hindi by Vinod Kumar Shukla. He is an octogenarian who lives in Raipur, and this year he won the Penn Nabokov Award for Lifetime Achievement. I have loved his poems since 2015 and translated many of them. So I will read the Hindi originals followed by the English translations that are mine. They're work in progress and have not been shared with the public ever before. This one is offered to all of you who are here because you have many choices to spend your Friday evening differently. ये दिन उम्र की रोजी है, एक सुबह हुई कि तनख्वाह मिली और शाम हुई मैं खर्च हुई, अगले दिन का क्या पता, इस क्या पता दिन की भी सुबह हुई, ये उधारी है। मित्रों, दिनों के उधार को मैं दूसरों के जीवन से बहुत प्रेम कर चूक दूंगा, परंतु हम सभी के आजकल के दिनों की ये लूट और हत्या की रिपोर्ट है कि मैं किसी भी दिन को, जैसे 19 फरवरी के दिन को, I'm adding 19 मई के दिन को, like today, कविता के रोजनामचे में दर्ज करता हूं. Thank you for being here for the poems. This day is age's daily wage. As the morning breaks, it pays, and evening comes, it's spent. Who knows what of the next day? The morning of this what day too arrives. It's a loan. Friends, the loan of days I will repay by loving the lives of others. But of all our current days, this loot and murder report of any day, say the 19th of February, or 19th of May, as I say, I deposit in the everyday poem. I don't know how your week and day was. Mine was a bit rough. So this poem is where I am in terms of my feeling. His poems always make me feel alive, and this is me as I am this evening. मैं दीवार के ऊपर बैठा, थका हुआ, भूखा हूं, और पास ही एक कौवा है, जिसकी चोंच में रोटी का टुकड़ा, उसका ही हिस्सा छीना हुआ है. सोचता हूं कि आए. ना मैं कौवा हूं, ना मेरी चोंच है. आखिर किस नाक नक्शे का आदमी हूं जो अपना हिस्सा छीन नहीं पाता. Me on the fence, sitting, tired and hungry. And close by, I imagine a crow with a morsel in its beak. His share, grabbed. I wish this happens. I'm neither a crow, nor do I have a beak. I ponder, what sort of person am I? who can't even grab my fair share. I think in the context of Stop the Hate and We Belong, many of us overlook the microaggressions we face, and this poem also speaks to that. We can take space. We don't have to grab it, but there is a fair share that is ours. So the next poem is about that. मानुष मैं ही हूं इस एकांत घाटी में, यहाँ मैं मनुष्य की आदिम अनुभूति में सांस लेता हूं, ढूंढ कर एक पत्थर उठाकर एक पत्थर युग का पत्थर उठाता हूं, कल कल बहती ठंडी नदी के जल को चुल्लू से पीकर पानी का प्राचीन स्वाद पाता हूं। मैं नदी के किनारे चलते चलते इतिहास को याद कर भूगोल की एक पगडंडी पाता हूं। संध्या की पहली तरैया केवल मैं देखता हूं। चारों तरफ प्रकृति और प्रकृति की ध्वनियां हैं। यदि मैंने कुछ कहा तो अपनी भाषा नहीं कहूंगा, मनुष्य ध्वनि कहूंगा। I am human in this solitary valley, here in the human primal experience. I breathe. I search and pick up a stone from the Stone Age. I lift. The singing, flowing, cold river water I drink from my cupped hands to find the ancient taste of water. I walk on the riverbank, remembering history, finding a path from this geography. The initial onset of the evening, I alone witness in all four directions, nature and sounds of nature. If I say anything, I will not speak in my language. I will say it in human sounds.
Very nice. Very nice translation, Jyoti.
Yeah.
Thank you. One last short one, because I live in Mountain View. This is about mountains, although Dholagiri is a mountain in the Himalayan range. It also applies to, virtual and what we see online and how we get influenced. And I'm grateful for your company that keeps it real for me. धौलागिरी को देखकर मुझे याद आई धौलागिरी की तस्वीर, क्योंकि तस्वीर पहले देखी गई थी। पितामह पूर्वजों की भी चित्र हैं मेरे घर में। पूर्वजों को मैंने कभी नहीं देखा। मैं पूर्वजों को नहीं, पूर्वजों के चित्र याद करता हूं। लेकिन धौलागिरी को देखने के बाद मैं अपने पूर्वजों के चित्र नहीं, पूर्वजों को याद करता हूं। On seeing Dholagiri, I recalled Dholagiri's picture because I had seen the picture first. Pictures of paternal ancestors are also in my home. Ancestors I have never seen. I do not recall my ancestors, just their pictures. But after seeing Dholagiri, I do not recall the pictures of my ancestors. I remember my ancestors. I have one more, but I will come back to it if we have time. Thank you for your listening.
Wow. One of the things we really appreciate, I think, like I personally do, is listening to Jyoti, Hindi and then English, and really have the bhav come in double, and it just like stays. How she keeps it intact in both languages. It's just like I'm in awe of that. And next 3 minutes to you all.
Jyotiji, what inspired you to translate these poems? It's really very nice translation. I love the translation. The way you did.
Thank you. I think Vinod Kumar Shukla's poems make me lift me up. They make me feel whole. So the microaggressions I mentioned, I feel it heals. And the translation started because I moved to the Bay Area in 1988, and I did not have your company. Most of you came after that, and there were no Hindi speakers. But if I got excited about a poem, the only way to share it was to try and translate it. So that's how I got started.
Beautiful, beautiful translation.
It was wonderful to hear you, Jyoti. I've heard you a couple of times before, and it's such a delight. Just like Pragalbha said, the bhav that you bring in the original language and the translation, I think the feeling and emotions, you keep them so wonderfully intact. And I was, when Sandeep ji was asking you the question, Robert Frost's famous quote came to my mind, which says that poetry is what gets lost in translation. So I wanted to know, for you, what do you think gets lost in translation for you, along with the healing and everything that you gain from it?
It's definitely, I have said it in the circle many times, we murder poems in translation. But I think there is an oral tradition in India through which things have come alive, and just reading it and saying the poem out loud does something that I embody. So, the translation is just because I've been trained in a colonial educational system where I don't speak my own mother tongue, don't know how to read or write it. I speak it, but I don't know how to read or write Sindhi. So I can read Hindi, but my brain processes it in my day-to-day experiences, which I've lived in English for so long. So I'm very, I'm the only fool who would dare to translate such brilliant poems, but I love reading them out loud. So any excuse to do that is why I do this.
I think we are really fortunate, Jyoti, that you take on the challenge and you undertake this challenge to translate them. So we are treated to it.
Thank you for the kind words.
These were really rich and perfect questions. It was a treat to even listen to the answers from Jyoti. So thank you for those. And if anybody else had anything
I would
else.
also like to chime in, Pragalbha. It's been so long since I've heard Hindi poetry, Jyoti. My mother was a Hindi professor, and I routinely got to hear beautiful poetry from her. And in all these years that I've been living in the Bay Area, that's been such a challenge to actually find somebody who spoke in that language. Language is beautiful. The nuances that any language brings. So I can only imagine the challenge that you face when you're trying to translate the nuance of Hindi into an equivalent version in English. But you do make it accessible, and people are able to understand the beauty. So I thank you. You really enriched my evening today.
Thank you so much. And with that, if there's anything else for Jyoti, I would request anybody else to save it for after the hour. But please, we want it. Please save it. Put it in the chat or in your heart and save it and come back. In our circles, we have this thing called that Jyoti introduced as rules, double quote rules, is like a pregnant pause where we just want to like have this poetry wash through our visceral experience. We're just gonna pretend we had that because we move on from one powerful poet to another. And I am very, very proud to introduce our next poet, Navneet Galagali. He is bringing the mother of languages, Sanskrit, to us. And you do not want to miss. It's like, it's a special treat that we get to hear him. Navneet is a Silicon Valley software engineer with a fascination for Sanskrit poetry that is at least 3 generations deep. You will hear the depth from him. And a fun fact is, like, just today morning, I received a private message, somebody forwarding one of his YouTube videos and writing, you know, that poet, I've seen him in your posts from your group. He's gone viral among Sanskrit scholars in India. We love him. And that's why I'm proud to introduce him today, Navneet Galagali. Please spotlight him now.
Thank you, Pragalbha, for the lovely introduction. I have 2 Sanskrit verses today. In the last millennium, there was a king named Bhartrhari. And in his youthful days, he wrote a collection of Sanskrit verses called Sringara Shatakam, which are based on the theme of romance. Here's a sample. Kimiha bahubhiruktaihi yukti shunyaihi pralapaihi dvayamiha purushanam sarvada sevaniyam abhinava madalila lalasam sundarinam stanabhara parikhinnam yauvanam vavanam va kimiha bahubhiruktaihi yukti shunyaihi pralapaihi. What is this nonsense that passes for life advice? Dvayamiha purushanam sarvada sevaniyam. Life is very simple. There are only 2 options in life. Abhinava madalila lalasam sundarinam stanabhara parikhinnam yauvanam. The first one, either enjoy the exotic, rousing, filled, and aching breasts of beautiful women. That's the first option. If you're not going to do that, vanamva, just leave everything and go to the forest. These are the only 2 options in life that are worth considering. And from this verse, it's pretty obvious to us which he would prefer. Fast forwarding a little bit, when Bhartrhari is a little bit older, or much older, he writes something called the Vairagya Shatakam on the same theme. Here's the verse. Ramyam harmyatalam na kim vasataye shravyam na geyadikam kim va prana samagama sukham naivadhika pritaye kintu dbhranta patanga paksha pavana vyalola Deepankura chaya chanchalam akalayya sakalam santovanantangata ramyam harmyatalam nakim vasataye. Isn't this such a beautiful palace? He's a king after all. Shravyam na geyadikam. Isn't this music exquisitely satisfying? Kimva pranasama samagama sukham naivadhika pritaye. Isn't uniting with my beloved exceptionally pleasurable? Kintu, and yet despite all of this, udbhranta patanga paksha pavana vyalola deepankura. When a moth approaches a small lamp, the fluttering of its wings creates a small wind, which causes that small lamp to flicker, and its shadow falters. Deepankura chaya chanchalam akalayya sakalam. Like the fickle shadow of that flickering flame, all of our enjoyments, all of our pleasures, our sensory indulgences are transitory. Akalayya sakalam santo vanantangataha. Realizing this, the wise renounce everything and go to the forest. If you notice, the same idea which he ridiculed in the first verse, he's now like honoring it. So it seems Bhartrahari had a change of heart and found his way from sensuality to renunciation. I hope you all enjoyed. Thanks for listening.
Absolutely.
I would like to say, Navneet, you have introduced me to a different kind of Sanskrit poetry, like we generally associated with the religious, rites and stuff. But then, this is a totally different, I would say, dimension for me. So thanks so much. After
I
you
agree.
all these poems in our meetups, I realized that Sanskrit poems are having all different kind of, shades of life, and the way you translated it was beautiful. So do you want to give us a background how you started, learning Sanskrit, and how you came to basically doing these translations, and because you're doing it beautifully.
Thank you, Sanjeevji. I think I had a taste in literature like many of you here from a very young age. And as I began to read more and more English literature, I became acquainted with translations of Sanskrit works, like Kalidasa, Shakuntalam, Meghaduta, and so on. And I felt like I'm missing out on quite a treasure trove of really good quality literature. And so because I was fortunate to be in a family and environment where that was easy to pick up and learn. My dad also knows Sanskrit. So I felt like I'd be wasting my opportunity if I didn't learn it. Yeah.
I want to add that we were forced to learn Sanskrit in school, and the only verse I remember was Phalam Phale Phalani Sanskrit Kabina Ani, Ani to Ani. But after listening to you the past 6 years or so, I am this angry professor who's like, why was my education such that it deprived me of my own culture and this rich heritage? So I'm so grateful to have found you, and through you found this love for things that you bring to us. Everything that you have ever read has been a blessing. This is so wonderful. Thank you so much.
I also want to point out, Navneet, is that the chat is flooding with very rich information and responses on, Sanskrit. Like Navneet brings us a capsule, one poem or two verses, and it just makes us alive with Sanskrit in a way. And I just wanted to point out the chat is very rich also.
Thank you. And this group has helped me become more confident in presenting poems. This is where I started. As you mentioned earlier, Jyotiji is the incubator for poets, and that's certainly been true in my case. Or rather, the Rasikas. Yeah.
Well, I just want to add my gratitude to everyone's, Navneet. It was absolute delight to hear the verses from you and the translation. I just wanted to know, we all know that Sanskrit has its roots deeply embedded in our culture. So when you share the verses with their translations, do you try to bring in new sensibilities along with it, or do you try to retain the traditional meaning to it?
Yeah, there has to be a balance struck, because if it's a word-to-word literal translation, it's not quite as enjoyable. I feel like that loses more than it gains. So like what's called the bhavartha, the overall essence of the poem, you have to kind of bring out in your own, in the own idiom that you're speaking, in the English idiom. So that requires to add a little bit. Like you lose a lot in translation, but you also have to add a little in translation. So bit of give and take.
The perfect example for integration of the rasas and bring out the bhav. And I'm not good at any of the translation and the languages, but I'm just trying to express what's coming up for me. If somebody is still lingering with more for Navneet, please save it in your heart or the chat, because we want to move on to another master poet, another language it is really a privilege to introduce again Sandeep Kohli, engineer by profession. He is deeply influenced by Ghalib. He writes Urdu ghazals and nazms on topics of romance, philosophy, politics, and life. His masterful delivery in Hindustani/Urdu, it gives us the best flavor of the Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb. I mean, I learned these things first time in this group. Jyoti mentioning the Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb and then me understanding it, and poets like Sandeep ji really bringing it alive with how he delivers. It's my first introduction to Urdu with him and really becoming fond of it. Please welcome Sandeep Kohli.
I would like to thank India Currents and Poetry of Diaspora in Silicon Valley for inviting me for this recitation. I'm going to read a few couplets, like shares from 3 of my ghazals today. They are in Urdu, so I don't have a translation, so I'll try to give you a little gist before I start, and then I will read in Urdu. So I'm sorry, you will get a little bit of idea what this ghazal is about in English, and then I will read the whole some of these couplets in Urdu. The first ghazal is called Ta'assub. Ta'assub means discrimination. And it speaks about the political leaders who spread hate and intolerance and pollute the minds of the people. And this eventually converts a human being into a burning pyre of hate and bigotry. And then these demagogues continue to fan this fire of hate, which consumes humanity. So this is the essence of this ghazal. I will be reciting a few shares. Ta'assub, Mulaza farmaiye. सजा दे रहे हो, जजा दे रहे हो, सजा दे रहे हो, जजा दे रहे हो, वजह हर दफा बेवजह दे रहे हो, सजा दे रहे हो, जजा दे रहे हो, वजह हर दफा बेवजह दे रहे हो, खामोशी है यहाँ बेजुबानों की महफिल, खामोशी है यहाँ बेजुबानों की महफिल, क्यों आवाज को ही दबा दे रहे हो, क्यों आवाज को ही दबा दे रहे हो, दीवारें अगर टूट जाती तो क्या था, दीवारें अगर टूट जाती तो क्या था, क्यों हाथों में खंजर थमा दे रहे हो, क्यों हाथों में खंजर थमा दे रहे हो, मोहब्बत के पैगाम की है जरूरत, मोहब्बत के पैगाम की है जरूरत, और यलगार की तुम सदा दे रहे हो, और यलगार की तुम सदा दे रहे हो, वो शमशान जैसे सुलगने लगा है, वो शमशान जैसे सुलगने लगा है, और तुम नफरतों को हवा दे रहे हो,
Wow.
नफरतों को हवा दे रहे हो. So the next ghazal, second one here, is dedicated to the people who have been living in terror zone or war zone for decades and some of these are living for decades in these kind of places, and they are a spectator to the violence and massacres in their day-to-day life. And I also happen to have such an experience in my life once, so I know that how you feel. Like you feel as if you are trapped in a nightmare, and somebody is going to wake you up from that nightmare, and everything is going to be normal. And that is the kind of feeling which persists in the mind of the people who are basically a spectator to such a violence. So just a few share, not a very big, just two, three couplets here. मुलाजा फरमाइए. आंखों से मेरी नींद उड़ा क्यों नहीं देते, आंखों से मेरी नींद उड़ा क्यों नहीं देते, सपने से डर गया हूं जगह क्यों नहीं देते. आंखों से मेरी नींद उड़ा क्यों नहीं देते, सपने से डर गया हूं जगह क्यों नहीं देते, कांटों के बिस्तरों पे लिटा रखा है हमें, कांटों के बिस्तरों पे लिटा रखा है हमें, हमें किसी सूली पे चढ़ा क्यों नहीं देते, हमें किसी सूली पे चढ़ा क्यों नहीं देते, इंसान को इंसान ना रहने दे जो मसले, इंसान को इंसान ना रहने दें जो मसले, उनको किसी मट्टी में दबा क्यों नहीं देते, उनको किसी मट्टी में दबा क्यों नहीं देते, आंखों से मेरी नींद उड़ा क्यों नहीं देते, सपने से तर गया हूं जगह क्यों नहीं देते.
Brilliant.
And the last ghazal, I will try to do it in Tarannum because Jyoti just pointed that out in my last conversation. So, and this last ghazal is like a prayer. It's called Dua. We pray for hate and bigotry to vanish from the hearts of the people and let their hearts be filled with love and humanity. So this is the essence of this last one. Dua, मुलाहिज़ा फरमाइए. जरा फिजाओं में रंग भर दें, जरा घटाओं को आब कर दें, जरा फिजाओं में रंग भर दें, जरा घटाओं को आब कर दें. सितारे कब से सुलग रहे हैं, तुम आओ इनमें करार भर दें. सितारे कब से सुलग रहे हैं, तुम आओ इनमें करार भर दें. जहन में मेरे महक रहे हैं ख्याल कितने, सवाल कितने. जहन में मेरे महक रहे हैं ख्याल कितने, सवाल कितने. जरा सा बैठें, जरा ठहर लें कि आज इनको किताब कर दें. जरा सा बैठें, जरा ठहर लें कि आज इनको किताब कर दें. ईमान वालों की बस्तियां हैं, कहीं बुतों का है बोलबाला. ईमान वालों की बस्तियां हैं, कहीं बुतों का है बोलबाला. दिलों में नफरत पनप रही है, नजर ना मेरी खराब कर दें. दिलों में नफरत पनप रही है, नजर ना मेरी खराब कर दें. अब ये लास्ट में दुआ है. इसे दुआ, दुआएं मांगो नई तरह की, जो दिल को थोड़ा करार आए. दुआएं मांगो नई तरह की, जो दिल को थोड़ा करार आए. नफरतों में झुलस रहे हैं, उन्हें मोहब्बत से शाद कर दें. जो नफरतों में झुलस रहे हैं, उन्हें मोहब्बत से शाद कर दें. थैंक यू सो मच.
मुकर्रर मुकर्रर, बहुत खूब.
ये लास्ट शेर जो है प्लीज उसके दोबारा कहिए. मुकर्रर.
ठीक है, दुआ फिर से करते हैं कि
हाँ, दुआ करिए.
दुआएं मांगो नई तरह की, जो दिल को थोड़ा करार आए. दुआएं मांगो नई तरह की, जो दिल को थोड़ा करार आए. जो नफरतों में झुलस रहे हैं, उन्हें मोहब्बत से शाद कर दें. थैंक यू सो मच.
बहुत खूब, दिल छू लिया.
Perfectly said, Dil Chhu Liya. I want to call in a mixture of responses and our popular pregnant pause. Like, really invite everyone to check in. How are you doing? What changed inside? Something happened, I'm sure.
संदीप जी, आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया हमारे साथ बैठने का. दुनिया में जो नफरतें पनप रही हैं, उनसे हमारी बचाव करने का, दिल में जो सवाल उठ रहे हैं उनको किताब कर दें. ये तो मतलब हर बार आपको सुन के दिल और खुलता है. आप इतना प्यार बांटते हैं, प्यार जगाते हैं. आपकी सोबत के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. आपकी poems के लिए बहुत शुक्रिया.
Mm.
And for everybody, our first public program was created and hosted by Sandeep Ji, Irshad, and Pankhuri's in the room, his daughter, who created the backdrop for it. So this would not have been possible, but for all the work he did to get us started.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Mm.
for your encouragement and your motivations, Jyoti. Thank you so much.
Mm. Mm. Wow. The magic continues. It keeps flowing. Anything quick minute for Sandeep?
Yeah, I'd like to say as well. मजा आ गया संदीप जी, बहुत मजा आया सुनने में आपको. And thank you to you and also to Navneet for bringing in some music along with your poetry as you chanted those lines or you sung those lines. I just had a question for you as well. I'm really fascinated with the ghazal as a form. So how did you start writing in it?
The ghazal was something I was intrigued with in our home, like as Navneet said, like my grandfather and his younger brother, they were poets, and it was a culture. Shero Shairi was always there in the air. And then, but I didn't understand that much when I was a child. But then I started reading Ghalib when I grew up. I was in college. And that is where I understood the intricacies of ghazal and how it is written and, the meters and everything. So it's like, that's the reason, that's how I got introduced to it. And this is again, then it's a romance with ghazal, I would say. And then definitely so many ghazals I've listened, like Begum Akhtar till Jagjit Singh, like different singers have sung those ghazals. So it's musical, it's and some of this is really, Ghalib is one of my favorite poets.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
We often refer to Sandeep ji as our own Ghalib that we get to meet and listen to in person. I mean, for me, this is really a markup in poetry in Urdu. All right.
Thank you for honoring my request to do it in Tarannum. Tarannum se kuch aur zyada pyar pahunchta hai. Thank you so much.
I hope to take this into transition in this quiet, beautiful flow that I'm feeling. I hate to rush, but it's just introducing another amazing poet that I feel honored to get introduced to, Monica Corday. She is the Poet Laureate for the city of Belmont. I just love saying that, like, so amazing. Poet Laureate for the city of Belmont, founder of the community-wide program Project Poetry 360, and focuses on the ability of poetry to connect people with one another. Really fitting for a theme of We Belong. And please go through her bio in the chat. I really loved reading everything she does and she's been doing. And all yours, Monica. Just can't wait to hear you now.
Well, good evening, everyone. And thank you, Pragalva, for that kind introduction. And it's really endearing to hear such kind praise and wonderful words from you. And I'd like to thank India Currents for holding this space for poetry and community. And also thank Poetry of Diaspora founder Jyoti Bachani, who's amongst us and has shared her poetry already. Thank you, Jyoti, for inviting me to read with all the poets. It has been such an incredible experience listening to all of you, and there is so much varied poetry and multilingual work, truly a Navarasa of voices, and I'm really humbled. It's a challenge to follow up in that, but thank you everyone in the audience as well for being here. I can see a few familiar faces, not faces, maybe names, but Mark is here and Mara Grimes from San Mateo County of Arts office is here as well. Thank you so much for being here for support. And I have a sprinkling of poems tonight, exploring themes of identity, belonging, and home. So here they are. This first piece is titled tracing my roots. I can't trace myself to kings or queens, nor can I tell you if I come from a family of war heroes or saints. What if I say I come from a root word, having my own existence, but yielding and strong enough to shape a language, to create new meaning? If I could tell my younger self something, I'd tell her she doesn't need to be any one thing. What if I say I come from an ancestral manuscript, an old story preserving pieces of history, waiting to be restored, to be rewritten, to be translated, waiting to bring back to life a voice buried deep? What if I say I come from a heritage of poetry my mother makes, poems I taught myself to write, and poems I have grown up reading, from Tagore to Frost, from Dickinson to Angelo? I have found myself again in Mary Oliver and Nye, in Harjo and Tishani Doshi. I am retracing myself to my art, writing and rising with Poets Laureate of the Bay, and now I take up the torch. What if I say, this is the lineage I call back upon, this is the tradition I build upon today, and I feel healed in knowing I am not only a word on a page, but a voice alive in this time, in this place, and everything that I come from is only guiding me forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
I miss my hometown very much, and close to my house in India flows the river called Sabarmati, and I have seen it somewhat in its element, but now it is sitting snug, enhanced into a riverfront, and this poem is centered on loss that is inherent to the feeling of belonging. Riverine. I asked my father to tell me stories from his childhood, of days when he would escape to the wondrous neem tree, branch after branch, carrying his skinny limbs, lifting him high above, inviting him up only to gaze down at the dancing river below, flowing and full. How did it feel to race down with friends, jump into the hearty river just to have a quick swim? What was it like to sit on the naked shoreline, river-soaked bodies dripping into the white sand, and lazy muddy feet hanging over the blooming river? How did the scent of the river affect the hearts of young boys? My Baba, a man of few words, keeps talking over my questions, and all I see is the shimmering river, constant and free, moving downstream through memory and time. He continues to speak, but I hear him nearly sing. When I catch a sliver of the river glistening in his eyes, no dams to hold her back, no walls to close her in. There she runs, dark and deep, Sabarmati, the color of his eyes. Thank you.
So beautiful, so
Very
beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It has been really uplifting reading in this space, and here's my final offering for this evening. And I'd like to bring attention to what Jyoti mentioned during her reading as well, that in the theme we are celebrating Stop the Hate and We Belong, we often forget to talk about microaggressions, and there is a very fine line between curiosity and microaggression. So this poem also speaks to that in some ways. And the title of this poem is Reasons for Using the Mango as a Symbol Again in a Diasporic Poem. because I had yet to write a poem that had a mango in it. Because how else do I make it easy for you and manifest an image of my homeland? Because it is a metaphor of migration, a typical trope, and you don't need context. Because when I pick mangoes at Costco, I still bring them close to my face to have a scent of belonging. Because I long to see my mother make amras from scratch. Because the canned Kesar mango pulp at the Indian grocery store is only sugar, citric acid, and nostalgia. Because I had never taken a selfie with a mango before. Because my mother-in-law sent me pictures of green baby mangoes bursting forth on a tree she had given up on. Because cutting crescent moon-shaped slices of the mango feels like therapy. Because eating a mango is a full body experience. Because mango fibers hugging my teeth, those sticky mango hands and mango mess is fresh in my mind. Because the skin and stone is a singular shade, bright marigold inside and out. Because the Urdu poet Ghalib once said, "Aam meethe ho aur bahut se ho." Mangoes should be sweet and in plenty. Because in the land of avocados and home of the brave, I too sing America and dream of mangoes. Thank you so much for your attention and
Wow.
listening, everyone.
Thank you, Monica. It's just like the words that come to me are like moving and stilling at the same time because it just reaches deep. Thank you.
Thanks, Pragalpa.
Very rich in the rasa. Mango rasa or Navarasa. Either way, it's rich and sweet.
Yeah, it was very striking imagery. And I felt like when you were speaking, I could totally imagine the river and the scent, and the whole imagery was very vivid for me. So it was a great experience.
Thank you, Navneet. That's very kind of you to share that.
Yeah, I think we could taste the mangoes when you were reading the book.
Yeah.
And
So
we
that
could see the river and the people, kids playing on the river shore. So yeah, really you created that imagery, and
Monica,
thank you, Sandeep ji.
Monica, I've heard you read and recite a million times now, and you never cease to amaze me. It's always just, I was eating those mangoes with you. I have a mango on my counter right now. I'm waiting to get ripe. Like I felt the whole juice strip and the whole thing, and you're so great at making that happen. So thank you, and thank you for this invitation. This has been just an amazing way to finish a week. So thank you.
Thank you, Mara. Really grateful for your words.
I especially loved the title of the last poem. You're raising my awareness about remembering the difference between microaggression and curiosity, and bringing the bhav that and the context that's so important. So really appreciate that.
Thank you, Jyoti.
Beautiful. If no one else, I do have a question for Monica. Like your articulation of belonging and identity. Is there any poet that guides your voice, that has guided your voice?
Thanks for the question, Pragalpa. I think there are several poets, but just to start off, and if I can take a couple minutes to respond to the question. To begin with, I think my mother, who is a poet and author, remains a source of inspiration for me. The way she holds her mother tongue, which is Marathi, and her essence in her craft. I have always seen that come through effortlessly without making it forced or putting pressure on herself to write something in relation to identity or belonging. So just letting it be, letting yourself be in that piece that you're writing in. And among early poetry mentors, like Rabindranath Tagore, even Nissim Ezekiel, Maya Angelou, or Emily Dickinson, those that I read and studied, they have been a massive guiding force regarding themes like ethnicity and belonging. If I specifically talk about my voice as a South Asian immigrant poet, then two names come to my mind, which is Sujata Bhatt and Imtiaz Dharkar. Their poetry has tremendously inspired me. And there was this poem I read in school, or I don't remember, maybe in college. It was called Search for My Tongue by Sujata Bhatt. And this poem is mostly in English with a stanza in her mother tongue, in the Gujarati language. Although the script she uses to write Gujarati or to express Gujarati is still the English script that she uses. And I was just taken by the way she speaks about the loss of her mother tongue and the belonging she feels with it in her dreams. So if I remember well, the lines in Gujarati say, "Fool ni jem mari bhasha, mari jeeb, modhama khile che," which is translated to, my language, my tongue, like a flower, blossoms within my mouth. And I often meditate on the relationship between language, identity, and belonging. So I also feel there are lots of things, our multicultural ties and our evolving identity complicates the definition of belonging. So I have come to a consciousness that belonging is like love. It keeps evolving, and the connection and intensity of it is not constant. So we can be more accepting to the changes we feel in the notion of belonging. And I feel my sense of belonging these days is deeply informed by poetry and community, where I'm called to show up for others or to share in solidarity. And in the process of doing that, I continue to feel belonged. So there are many other poets as well, contemporary poets like Hanif Abdul Rakib or Amy Nazakumatathil, Meena Kandasamy. I could just go on. But yeah, there are fabulous
so
Bay Area
much.
poets also.
Thank you. So enriching to hear you in all different ways. This has been such a rich time together. That was our last poet, but not the last poem. I'd say we did pretty well to reach the 60-minute mark on time. And then now we are lingering on and we are mixing our conversational and poetry, because we as a group, we just like surrender to poetry. Now it's yours to guide us how you want us to flow. And that's what happened in the last 10 minutes. And I think it's a happy flow. I just want to offer one short poem dedicated to all of you, all the rasas that came together, the space for poetry that got co-created in this last hour. It goes, "The time for the heart to sing its song aloud is ripe. The time for the heart to sing its song aloud is ripe. The silent revolution will bring parallel lines intersecting. We are meant to walk on our own. That's how we find our tribe. The warrior tribe binding invisible hands, assisting each other in this intricate yet well-designed journey of truth to stop the hate." Very grateful for how we come together for this, how this gets choreographed organically, just by us showing up with our essences, with our being, with the rasa that flows through us in the moment. As much as this is my concluding speech, I don't want to conclude this program without inviting Jyoti Bachani back because at the end of her reading, she said she has one more if she has time. And there's always time for you, Jyoti Bachani. Please come on and give us your the other poem that you had for us.
Thank you, Pragalpa. The program's supposed to go for another 20 minutes, and we have room for audience to unmute and engage with us. And I see some familiar faces who are poets in the room. So please, if you want to read to us, you're welcome to. This is a poem of gratitude and thank you for the audience, because the audience have a very important role in the Indian poetic tradition of supporting by listening, and listening is the best gift you offer us. So thank you for the time that you've spent with us. This poem is again by Vinod Kumar Shukla. दुनिया में अच्छे लोगों की कमी नहीं है, कहकर मैं अपने घर से चला, यहाँ पहुंचते तक जगह जगह मैंने यही कहा, और यहाँ कहता हूं कि दुनिया में अच्छे लोगों की कमी नहीं है। जहां पहुंचता हूं वहां से चला जाता हूं। दुनिया में अच्छे लोगों की कमी नहीं है, बार बार यही कह रहा हूं, और कितना समय बीत गया। लौटकर मैं घर नहीं, घर घर पहुंचना चाहता हूं, और चला जाता हूं। You know, something Monica said. Monica, I love that you had mentioned the names of several poets in one of your poems. And the Gujarati phrase of language blossoming in the mouth resonated with me about, you know, how we embody the poems by reading them. So thank you for letting me read this, Pragalpa. In this world, good people are not scarce. Saying this, I left my home. Till reaching here, this is what I said everywhere, and still say it here. In this world, good people are not scarce. No matter where I reach, I move forward from there. In this world, good people are not scarce. I repeat often. And so much time has passed. I cannot return home, but want to reach every home. And I keep moving on. So with that, we are moving on to the audience participation. Please unmute yourself, say what you have to. We want to hear you. We want to see you if you want to be seen.
I would like to say something. First of all, Navneet, I'm very proud of you that being such a young person, you keep interest in Sanskrit, the oldest language of our own. And keep going, please. Sanskrit is getting lost, but people like you will hold it. Okay, and next time, Sandeepji, want to hear more ghazals? Okay, wonderful. The program was very good. I enjoyed thoroughly. Bye.
So kind of you to come on and say that. Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
Perhaps a poem or a question for a poet or a mukarrar for a poet or a request for a poet. Anything is welcome.
When Sulekha ji said next time, Sandeep ji, more ghazal, I was like, why next time? Aapki khwahish abhi puri kar dete. But
That's like it.
I don't want to volunteer, Sandeep, but I I know Aarti is a poet. I know Kamala is a poet. We have many poets in the room, although I call my group a group of poetry lovers. But yes, the floor is open, please.
I'd like to say something. The space that the Poetry of Diaspora, generated, especially in the COVID times, was very, very fulfilling to our lives. And especially to us as writers. For me, it was a space that got to experiment with different styles of poetry. And it was so lovely to see how people responded to different types. It really helps one as a writer too. So it's not just emotions. And, we would, of course, do things thematically sometime. But it was also, just seeing what people liked and, going back and thinking about what to make better. So it was a really very precious experience for me personally. And I know for others too. So thank you so much.
Kamalaji, can I request you to recite one of your technical poems, scientific poems?
Science. She is one of the rare poets who brings science in poetry, or poetry in science.
Sure, I can do a short one. And this is what I meant was, I used to write completely different kinds of poems, and it was really wonderful to see how it resonated with people. So this one is called Light. Okay, about light, there was a racket. Newton thought they were packets. De Broglie thought they were waves. Now both lie in their graves. It's cruel, but light's dual.
Science, humor, and poetry. Where would you get that?
Yeah. And I had another short one, which is non-scientific, really short. And this one goes, I love pencils, for I can erase my mistakes easily with them. When I grew up, they said, it's harder to erase mistakes. Then they gave me the pen.
Powerful punch.
Very good.
This is what we get from Kamala, always.
And we writers need to remember that distinction between the pens and the pencils and keep the child alive. So you're making requests. I'll request Aarti to read us one of her poems.
Okay. Hi, Jyoti. Hi, everyone. It's been so lovely listening to you all. I think I'm on my phone, so I'm like trying to figure out if I can read and see you all, because I've met a few of you on one meeting I attended with Jyoti earlier. And it's lovely to see familiar faces, and also few people you keep posting about. And it's been real. As they say, poetry solves nothing for me. It just saves my soul, nothing else. So I don't claim to be a poet, although Jyoti is kind, but I'll try to share a few of my writings, at least one of them if possible. But I'm not sure if I can, keep the video going, because I'm still struggling with this. So I think I'm just going to talk about, because there's so many thoughts which went through, I'm just going to talk about words, because we heard so many beautiful words, right? So today in Sanskrit, in Urdu, in English. So there's something which I written on words, which goes like, Sab shabdon ka hi to indrajal hai. Kuch akshar jo apni chaturai se din ko raat और रात को दिन दिखाते हैं, घर बैठे जग भ्रमण कराते हैं. माँ की जिड़की और माँ की प्रीति, बारीक अंतर समझा दोनों में. सहम के बाबा के पास सोच के शब्दों का इस्तेमाल करना, दोस्तों को किस्से सुनाना और हंसना हंसाना, वो समाप्त ना होने वाली मन भावन बातें. शब्द पानी के बुलबुले से उबलते थे, कभी कम ही नहीं पड़ते थे. फिर बढ़ते बढ़ते साथ छूटने लगा उनका, कहने से पहले उनकी कल्पना जरूरी थी. हर शब्द अब हर आदमी भिन्न विभिन्न सुनता था. तब शब्दों को मित्र बनाकर कागज पे डाला, मुझे मेरे शब्दों से बेहतर और कौन जानता था। सुबह की नर्म धूप और दोपहरी के तपते वज्र में, सावन की बूंदाबांदी में और बहारों की शोखियों में, पर प्रेम में पतझड़ भी पनपते हैं, सूखे निशब्द दिन गृहित करते हैं। आज फिर टिकटकी लगाकर एहसास को टटोल रही हूँ, शायद कोई भूला भटका शब्द हाथ आ जाए, कोई कविता नहीं तो कहानी ही रच जाए, आड़ी तिरछी सच्ची झूठी। जैसे दुख हाथों में नहीं समाती, शब्दों की माला हमेशा नहीं पिरोती। शंका है आज फिर मेरा पन्ना खाली रह जाएगा।
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so much.
it's
Very
I'm
apt.
nervous to speak in front of so many great poets, but and I was
Very
not
apt.
Leaving us with a blank page at the end is the perfect gift for all the writers in the
Yeah.
room. We have
Yeah.
the final couple of minutes left. We end at
Yeah.
6:30. I would be remiss if I did not thank India Currents. So thank you, Vandana, for creating an opportunity for us to gather again and gather to offer it to the community. Like we gather every first Saturday of the month anyway, but we are very shy of performing because we all declared that we are not poets, we are poetry lovers, except for Monica, who is the poet laureate, and she was gracious enough to join us for this evening. But we really appreciate your support for the spoken word, and hopefully the power of the words resonated with how through words people took you on journeys and gave you a flavor of the many different rasas that are possible through just words. So I really want to appreciate every single person who's here. Your time and embodying your presence is the best gift that you could have offered to all the writers to support us in what we do. Sometimes we feel like we are always talking to dead people and living with our own ghosts. So it's wonderful to make the ghosts come alive with our breath and our listening. So really, really great.
Yeah. And thank you very much for this opportunity you extended towards me for the dual role. I really enjoyed it, being on the listening end, and we ready to conclude. Does anybody with India Currents want to jump in, or can I bring this to a close with a short poem?
I just want to say thank you. Jyoti, you are all poets. Let me assure you. So stop calling yourself, we are, poetry lovers. You're all amazing poets. Thank you. What a delightful way to end this week. Absolutely. Over to you, Pragalpa.
All right.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you do in person this program?
We can take that maybe offline. Yeah.
You haven't done it on in person yet.
We do. We meet. We have poetry picnics. We do gatherings in each other's homes. Yeah, it's a very organic group. Each one of us volunteers and hosts. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. we are gathering in San Francisco, and a group called Char Yaar is coming from India to sing some Sufi songs, and most of us will be attending that. So yes,
how do I get the information?
I will share it in the chat window in a minute.
Wonderful.
If you're on Facebook, Poetry of Diaspora has a Facebook group which would post events that we are going to be at or hosting or things like that. So that's where you would find more information of our meetings online and in person. While Jyoti posts that in the chat, here's a concluding offering that I had for all of you. I wanted to take your leave with this reminder I give myself when I feel challenged with belonging or separation, a feeling of separation. It goes, Wherever I stand on the same earth. Wherever I stand on the same earth. Use this to stand a bit taller. Use this to soften within. Hopefully you're able to take that. Thank you very much.
Pragalba, thank you for being our Sutradhar and holding the meeting together, bringing the audience and the poets into this beautiful creation. I'm going to steal your chant and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
बहुत शुक्रिया.
Thank you all. We'll end the meeting now.
Thanks.
Yes.